I had a new client approach me recently and he said this. He said, Tara, I just finished a presentation. I thought I nailed my story and I still didn't win the sale. So we dug in and we uncovered 3 very common mistakes in a presentation. So today we're going to talk about stories that sell. And I'm going to offer 3 talk to the brain tips around stories and selling. And the first is this, and you've probably heard me say it before. Make sure that your story includes some data. Now that might sound odd coming from a storyteller, but remember this, the brain responds to emotion, but we store information in our prefrontal cortex, and that information must be something concrete. So once we tap into emotions, we also need some data. I call it stories with stats, and the sweet number is 2. Don't overload the listener with enormous amounts of data. Give them 2 numbers that are compelling that they can store in their brain. So that's the first tip, stories with stats. Number 2, make sure that during your presentation, you share a story that lets the potential client know that you are credible, that you have enough skill and expertise and bandwidth to take them on as a client. Because no matter how many stories we tell that are compelling and emotional and touch our heart, if we don't make sure that the potential client is comfortable with our expertise, our skill, and our bandwidth, then we still won't make that sale. So that's tip number 2. Make sure that you share some information, maybe some testimonial stories that prove to the potential client that you are credible. And number 3 is the big one. Absolutely make sure that you tell a story that taps into emotions. But here's where I think folks are getting that wrong. We don't want to shock the listener. We don't want to share a story that feels so unimaginable that they simply shut down. For example, I share many times about my daughter's story with epilepsy. Now, if the focus was on a seizure disorder and how many times she's crashed down and all the heartache that surrounds that, that is way too much emotion, especially in a business setting, for someone to try to hold on to and then make an informed decision. So where do we find the emotional story that sells? And it is this. It is sharing our experiences, but focusing on the universal emotions. So we don't want to tell a story, again, that is just simply unimaginable. We want to focus on the emotions that we experience during that story and make sure that is the message to the listener. So rather than focusing on epilepsy, for example, what I focus on is my response and my desire to fight for my child. Those emotions are universally relatable. People can relate to loving someone so much that you're willing to sacrifice just about anything. As a matter of fact, I think this is why my book has gotten such great reviews. People cannot imagine the journey that I've been through, but what they can imagine are the emotions that I share through the stories. So there are your 3 tips for stories that sell. Make sure that you use stats, a story with stats. Make sure that you let the customer know that you're credible. Prove to them that you are the expert that they need. And the third one is, make sure that when you're telling that emotional story, that you're focusing on those universal, relatable emotions so that they can relate to that. So take these 3 tips, incorporate them into your presentations and your storytelling, and let me know how your sales are growing.